Alright folks, thanks for stopping back by. Jorge Anito here. Just wanted to make a really brief video about encouragement to those who have small hands when in cardistry or sleight of hand, card magic. It can be really frustrating if you have small hands. I am someone who has small hands, and so I know the struggle. I know the pain. I know the discouragement that comes along with that. And I am no cardist by any stretch of the imagination. I just do, little card magic, and however, like most card magicians, we want to try to learn, at least I do, I want to try to learn and incorporate some cardistry in my routine to help accent my card tricks, my effects. So with that, I just wanted to, and also a little bit of context for the reason why I'm doing this is because December Boys actually put out a video recently about, somebody, a lot of people was complaining that they have small hands and they were having a hard time doing the Charlier because of small hands. This was one of the first tricks, not one of the first tricks. I actually learned the Revolution cut before the Charlier. But someone with small hands, I can say from personal experience, it is not impossible to do the Charlier or any of these, sort of packet cuts or, the one-handed cuts. I started out learning a Rev cut. I think that's actually a knuckle cut. A Revolution cut's where they kind of, I'm not sure how they do that. I think they swing the top packet around and place the bottom on top. However, I learned it, I think it's called a knuckle cut, where you tear away the bottom packet and place it in there like this. Anyway, so Alex from December Boys made a video that, he was saying, look, he's basically encouraging people to continue, trying. And so I posted a comment saying that, I have small hands, and even though I'm not great at what I do, I've been able to learn a few things. I've been able to modify a couple moves. So anyway, here's just a couple things that I found helpful. Is really just getting familiar with the handling. This is what I do with all the ad cards. Or this is what I've done before. I've taken all the ad cards, the 1 or 2 extra cards that comes in almost every deck, and I've just taken and basically made these like little trainers. I actually have like 6 or 7 of these. I have like a huge stack. And obviously that will allow you to practice some of these moves without dropping cards everywhere. But what I've found these most helpful for is exercises. It's just sort of placing them between like your fingers and just leaving them there for a while. And just letting your fingers get used to this sort of stretching. You can also kind of, rotate it around like so. And just try that with different fingers. And just when you're watching TV, just have a couple of these going in each hand. And it'll be a little uncomfortable, but it's going to get your fingers to the place where they're comfortable, freely moving packets around and things like that. So that's extremely helpful for me. Another thing that you could do is obviously these little exercises. And a good video that shows these is Rise Magic. They have a video on hand exercises that you could do these little things to improve your cardistry. Another thing that I've noticed is we have to talk about the Cardamundi B9 Linen Finish, because it's a good card, it's a great deck, but for me, small hands, they don't do what I need them to do, so I have to stick with USPCC. That doesn't mean that I don't have many Cardamundi decks and I break them out and play with them sometimes, but I have just found for myself that USPCC, when I'm actually performing or doing sleight of hand and cardistry, those are the cards that's familiar with me. And the cards that I found most helpful are the red wheels, because they're extremely thin, the travelers, any kind of Gemini deck, especially these ones, these Superfly, Stardust, are really, really good. And the thing about Gemini, you think, you know, they're not real slippery. Like, they're kind of like stiffer. And so that, you know, it's great for packet cuts and things like that. Anybody who has a pack, you'll know what I'm talking about. Any kind of orbit deck, amazing. These V5s, I like them better than the V6s. I like the V6s, the green alien ones, but these right here, and they're relatively cheap. I think they're about anywhere from $10 to $15. But if you're like me and you kind of gotta watch where your pennies are going, then some decks to consider are tally-hos. Right here's a fan back, circle back, another circle back. And I can tell you from experience, for me, the circle backs handle a lot better than the fan backs. That's just my personal opinion. They feel softer, they feel a little bit thinner. There's just something different about these. These are nice too, and these are $3 a pack. These are $3 or $4 a pack. Any kind of bicycle deck will work awesome. We all know this. This is the Auto Bike #1s. I found these at Walmart. They have a bunch of them there. They're only like $3.50, $4. These handle just a little bit better than the regular bicycles. I don't know if they have the magic finish on them or what, but they're really thin. I'll just break them out real quick. Like, I've had these cards forever, and they handle amazing. So obviously, if you're trying to be a good steward of your finances and you're just trying to, you know, conserve your resources, these are nice cards to get, and they handle perfect. Another thing to look out for with small hands is the way the cards are cut, traditional or modern cut. And you can usually go on YouTube if you're thinking about buying a certain deck, and you can find these reviews, and they'll tell you like whether or not they're modern cut or traditional cut. So modern cut is basically when the cards come off the line. Most of you already know this, but when the cards come off the line, they are cut from back to front. And so what that means is the rough edge is going to be on the face. If it's traditional, then the sheets come out, and the guys at USPC, they take these big sheets and they lay them upside down or face up, and then they run the blades over them, and then you have the smooth edge on the face and the rough edge on the back. Why is that important? Because whenever you're doing these packet cuts and stuff, like, see how quick, you know, these could, I'm tearing these apart, and that's really not even that quick. But these are modern cuts, so that means the rough edge on the face, it's easier for me to just kind of pick up. Like, if it's smooth, you could still do it like this way, and obviously, you know. But for me, I try to pick out modern cuts unless I'm doing like a tabled performance, or I'm doing a lot of tabled tricks, I'm doing table pharaohs, things like that. But modern cut also, you can pharaoh them from back to front, and so you have this cool display, you know, of the backs. That was a terrible, but so yeah, and that's just something to consider. It's just easier to work with. Modern cut decks are easier to work with whenever you're doing these cardistry moves, these packet cuts, these you know, one-handed cuts, things like that. So that's just something to be mindful for. I found with small hands, modern cut decks are really easier for me to work with. And it's just something that I've come used to. Something that I've become used to. And something that I did, you know, when you're watching these tutorials on these on Civil or just whatever move, you can always modify it. Like each person is going to be different, and so the way you handle cards is going to be just unique to you because, you know, everybody's different. It's really just as simple as that. So don't be afraid to deviate from the norm or the standard. You know, like I said, for the longest time I thought this was a revolution cut until I just realized it was a knuckle cut here recently. So anyway, just little ways that you can figure out how to modify, just like a thumb fan. I do an index fan. You know, it's more comfortable for me to do an index fan. That's not saying that I can't do a thumb fan, but if I'm just busting out moves, I do an index fan. And so just little things like that. Just don't be afraid to deviate from the norm and incorporate your own modifications and your own little tweaks to it. That's really all I have to say, guys. Try to keep it short and sweet. I just want to encourage you, anybody with small hands, if I can do these moves, anybody can. And I'm not great. I'm still learning every day, but I'm not going to get discouraged because I can't because I think I'm inadequate or my hands they're just not big enough, like I'm inferior or something. You're not inferior, you know, obviously you're unique. If you have small hands like me, there's no reason to be discouraged, but only be encouraged and just keep pushing, keep trying, modify where you have to modify, add tweaks and fine tune where you need to, and make these moves yours, you know. Thanks again for stopping by. God bless.